Hey, what's up? It's Bond, and today I want to talk about Mass Effect. Go figure. Let's jump more into some of the things that we've been speculating on and such, including whether or not the figure, the N7 soldier in the Mass Effect 2023 N7 Day trailer is Shepard or not. Now, where I want to start that conversation is more of a matter of we can't really decipher if it's them or not. If you were part of my live stream when we were all hanging out while we were waiting for this trailer to get fully revealed, you'll know that especially after the second little 5-second teaser came out, we all just assumed it was Shepard, and I think we had pretty good reason to. If you watch the trailer, they're really going hard into the N7 symbolism. And something I've talked about for a long time, if you've paid attention to my videos or my podcasts and stuff, is that I very vehemently believe that any reference to an N7 is a reference to John or Jane Shepard from the original trilogy until it isn't. I know what happens every time. It happens on the subreddit. It happens on the comments in my YouTube videos, and even on social media to a point, is people always push back and say, look, there's hundreds or thousands of N7 soldiers out there. It's a rank, it's not an individual. And I agree. I appreciate that fact. But my counter is that in the Mass Effect trilogy, in the Mass Effect franchise, we've seen 3 N7s. One of them is obviously Commander Shepard, the protagonist of the original trilogy. The other was Alec Ryder, who was briefly one of the protagonists in the Mass Effect Andromeda game, and then a random N7 that we find on a side mission at a Turian fuel outpost in Mass Effect 3. Those are the only 3 N7s we've ever seen in the game. And so I think it's pretty easy to dismiss that side mission N7. Alec Ryder had his own moment in a different game, and he was almost immediately killed off in that game as part of the franchise. So the only other N7 we've spent significant time with is Commander Shepard. I know Anderson, I believe, was an N7, but he's not in that role in the time that we interact with him. And so my whole thing is that until BioWare truly establishes this idea of there's lots of N7s, these references to an N7 could be anybody, that isn't our current situation. And that's why when I've talked about how there's been references to Commander Shepard or an N7 in all of the teasers, kind of up until 2023, that's what I mean, is that I simply do not think they have treated the N7 rank and branding as a this could be anyone situation so far in the 15 plus years of this franchise. And maybe they will. Maybe this next game is going to be where they finally say, like, hey, there are lots of N7s, and this game is not going to follow Commander Shepard. They're going to be like a legend in this universe. They probably will not be alive, whatever. Until, they may do that. But until they do, and in all this marketing and branding and all of that, until they, give us something concrete, I just hold that any N7 reference is a reference to Shepard. I will admit that with this 2023 N7 Day, that ground I've stood on, that opinion is as shaky as it's ever been. I think the references to Andromeda in that poster, seeing like Angarans and stuff like that, really, I've made a whole different video about, and if you check it out, about how my theories on this next game have all gone out the door for the most part. And even to this moment, I kind of don't have any theories I'm like subscribing really hard to, because I had this whole idea that this next game was so clearly a direct sequel to 3, and that we were going to be playing as Shepard, and we were going to see all of the old crew, and that they were going to do this kind of callback and this kind of nostalgia hit to kind of bring the series back before moving on, maybe with other games. That still seems possible, but it seems less and less likely, and I'm basically not counting on anything anymore. So getting back to, is that figure in this 2023 N7 Day trailer Commander Shepard? Because of the logic I've been using and I've been talking about in this video, I'm going to say yes. I'm going to assume that that is Shepard until we have actual reason to believe it isn't. And kind of getting into that just a little bit, I probably need to do a whole separate video on this subject, but the time frame is what matters. When this next game takes place is the biggest thing. And I've talked about in previous videos over the last couple of years about how like the sky cars and the shuttles and some of the concept art we've seen, even the aesthetic and stuff of the 2020 trailer and the poster in 2021 and the 2022 little video and the ships we see in that. I still argue pretty heavily that none of that tech, nothing we've seen, even to this point with 2023, I still don't think we've seen anything that is clearly like, hey, this is 500, 600, 700 years past the trilogy. It all still looks like it's in the same era. But then there's things that are hard to explain at this point. Why, and part of the releases of these trailers, was there in 2023, was there a reference to an Andromeda distress signal? Why are we seeing an Angaran in a bar with a Geth and with Hanar and with some of these, in these places that they really shouldn't be if this is going to be a direct sequel to 3 that takes place reasonably close to it, or at least close enough to it where all of our old friends are alive, including Commander Shepard? Why in that 2022 little video teaser concept art thing are there ships in it that clearly have the Nexus Andromeda mission ship designs, even though they look a lot smaller? Those are all questions that really put into question whether or not this game is going to take place shortly after 3 or many hundreds of years later, or in the, and this is a whole nother video as well, in the idea that maybe it takes place in both. Maybe we are going to get some game that deals with, maybe we are going to get some kind of game that deals with wormholes and time travel and cryo sleep and, all things that I've been pretty vehemently against, but things that at this point seem as likely as anything. There's lots of theories right now that going back to the Dark Matter storyline that they kind of introduced a little bit in the second game with Haystrom and with Tali's research on that planet with the sun not acting correctly, that was meant to be expanded on initially, and they eventually went a different direction when the writer who was heading that left. I don't know. I will just say that until, again, I'm going to reiterate before we wrap up this video, until BioWare clearly establishes that N7 can mean anyone, until they make that distinction, until that they've truly shown us that that's the case, I'm going to assume, to this day, as much evidence as there is against it at this point, that any reference to N7 is a reference to Shepard. And I still, with all the hopium and copium in the world, am holding on to some hope that this next game is going to be a direct sequel to 3, and with very obvious and impossible to deny connections to Andromeda at this point. So we'll have to see how they handle it, with all the rumors about the possible release date for this game being pretty far off. We may not know anything concrete for quite a while, but I can assure you I will continue making videos about it and stirring up some conversation about it. So down in the comments, please let me know what you think. If you like this video, if you want more Mass Effect videos, I have over 100 of them on this channel, mostly focused on the next game. Please subscribe. That would be awesome, and I would love to hear from you in my other videos as well. If you like the video, please hit the like button as well. You can find me as Bond Diesel all over the internet. I have 2 podcasts, the Bonfire podcast and the Mass Effect Hypecast, which I do pretty often, so please go check those out. And that's all I have for this one. So until next time.